Hey, love, you are listening to the No Boss of Me podcast, and I'm your host, Leanne Hanaway, money coach, wealth educator, and chartered professional accountant. This is a show that helps ambitious women grow and invest their money without shame, worry, or doubt so that they can live the life that they love. Every week, we will be discussing investing to build wealth, navigating personal finance as women, and talking with women entrepreneurs and change makers who are leaving their mark on our world. Without further ado, let's get into it. On Wednesday, the Bank of Canada announced that they would raise their benchmark interest rate by 0.25% or 25 basis points. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it can have a great impact on our economy, as well as us as individuals. But what exactly does this rate increase mean? If you want to have a listen to one of my earlier episodes, I provided an explainer on inflation. It really talked about the details of inflation and what happens to interest rates, whether they go up or whether they go down. However, I just really wanted to give you a quick synopsis on what happens when interest rates increase. When interest rates increase, it becomes essentially more expensive. When interest rates increase, it becomes more expensive for individuals as well as for businesses to borrow money. Particularly for those who have variable rate mortgages or loans, this means that your payments will go up. For businesses, it makes it harder for their ability to invest in, say, machinery, equipment, other services, as well as hire new employees, or sometimes keep in the employees that they currently have. This could lead to layoffs. This could lead to a general sentiment that the economy is in decline. And actually, not just in sentiment, in actual numbers. However, when we really interrogate the Bank of Canada's rate increase of only 25 basis points, it really shows that they believe that the economy is strong enough to handle this hike and therefore not fall into a recession. And that's what this podcast is all about. I really want to be talking to you about preparing for a recession. And that's what we're going to get into. But before we go into that, you know I love my definitions. So let's talk about the possibility of Canada falling into a recession and what exactly a recession is. Essentially, a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline. So that's 6 whole months in a row that our economy would be going down, would be performing less than it did the quarter before. The Canadian market, we've shown that it's slowed down in recent months, so it's not going up as fast as it might have been a couple years ago. It really hasn't shown a recession, in fact, let alone 2 quarters, 6 whole months of consecutive decline. So what does this all mean for you? It really means that it's harder for you and I who are outside to be able to really predict what will happen next with the Canadian economy. For most of us, though, we don't live in the broad Canadian economy. We live in our local communities, we trade in our local economies, and we are uniquely impacted not by the possibility of a general economic decline, but how markets and how the economy is moving and how it impacts us individually, how it impacts our earnings, such as our employment, how it impacts our savings, such as our interest rates, how it impacts our loans, again, interest rates, and our investments, and how the market is moving depending on how we've invested. Now, it's normal to feel concerned about your financial future, especially because we live in capitalism, and especially because not only are we in capitalism, we're entering a very challenging and uncertain times. And there's a lot of things that you can do to protect your money and feel more in control in this period of economic instability. So here's the good news as we get into this talk of preparing for a recession. A lot of what we're going to talk about doesn't just apply for uncertain times, it also applies for in the good times. So these are steps that, even when taking them now to be well prepared for a recession, it will help you really move along the journey to financial stability, which is just one step in feeling closer to obtaining any types of wealth goals that you might. Now, the first thing is to nurture your network. Even if you're employed, even if you have a solid business, it's always a good idea to keep in contact with your business contacts. Always a good idea to keep your resume updated and to start networking. Now, I love the word networking because what you do is literally just write in the word. You get busy working on developing your net, your safety net. I love it. It's right there in the word. Tells you exactly what you want it to do. So networking, it's a really important part of an aspect of building and maintaining your professional and business relationships. Essentially, when you do this before a recession hits, you will be prepared so that if you lose your job or some of your business goes away, you'll be better prepared to secure business going forward, be aware of new opportunities. And if by chance you do lose your job, you might need that network to help you find out where you can find a new one. In recessions, companies do cut costs and they do lay off employees. We've really been seeing this a lot in the headlines, particularly in the tech sector. But by having a strong network, it can help you stay informed about new job opportunities and maybe even lead to a referral or a recommendation for a new job. In this Canadian job market, the strengths of referrals that you have and recommendations that you have are particularly important in securing employment. And not only employment, if you are a business owner, it's also important in order to secure potential clients as well as service providers. Recession can be stressful, and having a strong network can also provide you with a really strong support system. You can rely on your network for advice, for guidance, for emotional support. Network can help you stay informed with any new trends, any new opportunities, or developments in your industry so that you can remain current. Why not see what's happening in your sector so that as things rebound, you'll be in a perfect position? It's so important to maintain and grow your network, even when the economy is good. But I hope I've been able to convince you it's especially good to maintain and grow your network in the case of recession and really that pre-recessionary period. So why not do it right now? Reach out to a couple people in your industry. Think about attending networking events and conferences so that you are top of mind. Even a lot of them are virtual. So maybe even book a Zoom date to stay in touch, have a coffee update, and connect with former colleagues and peers and mentors to let them know what you're up to. In building a strong network, you will be better prepared to weather a recession and come out on the other side. Now, the second thing you can do is take a look at your spending. It's normal to think about cutting back at any time. But as we move into the possibility of a recession, it's even more important to prepare by cutting back. How much and how fast you want to cut back really depends on your current financial situation. Now, there is a money person that I love to follow, Tiffany, the Budgetnista Alashay. She's known as the Budgetnista. And she would say if we're going into a recessionary period, you really want to move to your noodle, quote unquote, noodle budget. That noodle means ramen noodles. Okay. So really taking a look at where in your budget can you cut out and make some sacrifices in order to grow your savings or get prepared in case of recession, which means you could be laid off, or maybe your income is not going to grow as fast as you'd like it to. And in some instances, might not even grow as fast as inflation. Now, again, it's to say what would happen if you had to eat ramen noodles for a while, or whatever your equivalent is, whatever that might be. Some of the areas that you might want to look at is your fixed expenses, like can you trim areas that are related to transportation, maybe rent, I don't know. Maybe taking a look at subscriptions. What do you have that you really don't use, but it continues to hit your credit card or hit your debit and your bank account every month? Maybe instead of driving, you could look at carpooling, you could look at public transportation, you can bring out the bike. Now, you probably can't do that here where I am, where we got snow on the ground. But you could be creative and think out ways that you can place yourself in a good financial situation by making some small changes. You can figure out a budget, but I would caution in doing this, try to do it in a way to cut things that don't feel too restricted. It's really important to balance between saving money and, of course, enjoying life. And with that extra money you save, you can focus it on paying off debt or maybe even putting more into savings. And I'm not talking about emergency savings. I'm also talking about savings for other things that you might want to do in the next 2 to 3 years. If you're not sure which one you want to do first, paying off debt or putting more into savings, now is a good time to do some research to figure out what might be best for your specific situation. This could mean Googling. This could mean listening to some of my other podcasts, as well as consulting with a fee-only financial advisor. What's important is to be prepared for the future should a recession happen. But don't let it control your life. Be smart with your spending and make sure that you feel in control of your financial future by preparing for a possible bump in the road. Now, the third thing is you can bulk up your savings. Again, I alluded to this a little bit when we talked about looking at your spending. One of the most important things you can do is build up your emergency fund. An emergency fund, just to recall, it's a savings account where you can use in case of unexpected expenses, like a job loss, maybe a travel emergency, a health emergency, or a car repair or a home repair. Having money set aside in an emergency fund can make all the difference in being able to pay for your necessary expenses and keep you financially stable. It's recommended that you aim to have at least 3 months to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up in an emergency fund. I mean, that is really an amount that is up to you. It could seem like a lot if you're thinking something like 6 months, but most importantly, if you prioritize saving as much as you can, as soon as you can, you will really develop more of a habit of saving, which means that you can invest. But if you're already in a tight budget, you might want to make some sacrifices in the short term to reach your savings goal. When you really think about it, it's the peace of mind of being prepared for the unexpected that is your ultimate goal. When it comes to building your emergency fund, let's not forget where you should keep your savings in a recession. I want you to keep it in the safest option. So that's not investing it. That's keeping your money in a high yield savings account. A high yield savings account is the type of a savings account that typically offers a higher rate of interest than your traditional banking savings account or credit union savings account. Now, these are available at banks, as well as credit unions, as well as online. Whichever one you choose, make sure that your money will be easily accessible, and make sure that you are saving this emergency fund in a CDIC insured financial institution. This provides you an added layer of security for your savings. And once you've gone beyond your emergency fund, think about other savings that you might want or need in the next 2 to 3 years. Anything more than that, I encourage you should be investing that savings in the stock market. So that's what I want to talk about next. Don't adjust your investing plans. During recession, it's important to remember that it's not a really good idea to take money out of your investments. If you've been listening to me for a while, I really subscribe to long-term investing. This is not a get-rich-quick strategy. We want you to think about leaving your money in the market, letting it season, letting it bake, so it comes out nice and juicy on the other side. So even if the market is going down and you feel like you're losing money, it's important to remember that your investment balance is just a record of the current prices of your investment. It's not the ultimate amount that you are going to take the money out at. If you leave the money where it is, you will still have the possibility of making money again when the market goes back up. But if you take the money out, you will realize those losses and you'll miss out on any future gains. Now, remember, the stock market historically has gone up over the long term, even when there are short-term dips. If you really zoom out at how well the market has performed over time, we're talking about annual returns of 8 to 10% over a 10-year period. So that's why we're always thinking about our investments as a long-term play and not making any hasty decisions in the short term. Again, this is why we need the emergency savings, anything that we're going to use in case of an unexpected event, as well as other savings for anything that we're going to be using in the next 2 to 3 years. So anything in the next 2-3 years, we're thinking about saving. Anything beyond that, we're thinking about investing, particularly when it comes to your retirement in a recession. You do not want to withdraw money from your retirement accounts before your actual retirement, because you will be subject to penalties and income taxes. Not only should you worry about penalties and income taxes, you will miss out on the magic of compounding if you have the ability to continue to contribute to your retirement accounts. In addition to the magic of compounding, when you add in dollar cost averaging, you can really work out well when the stock market is low to continue to contribute. Now, dollar cost averaging is a way to invest your money over time by buying small amounts at regular intervals. This way, you're not putting all your money in at once and spreading it out over time. If you say want to invest $12,000 into the stock market over a year, instead of saving up $12,000 and putting it at the market all on one day, why not put in $1,000 a month? This helps you avoid buying at a high price and then losing out on a lot of the compounding, losing out on maybe that you could have bought it at a lower price. You don't really have to worry about the perfect timing. You don't have to be sitting there watching and seeing what makes the perfect time to buy a particular stock or even enter a particular market or particular sector. Instead, if you're contributing every month, you will work out an average dollar cost to buying into the market. Now, when the market is low, which it can be during a recession, you are actually buying on sale. So if it's something that you're going to buy anyways, which it is contributing to your retirement account, you're going to be doing that. Why not buy while it's on sale? You'll hear that a lot. The market's on sale, we're in a recession, continue to buy. Another way you want to really think about investing in a recession is that you are taking advantage of the ability to diversify your investments. So we talked about compounding, we talked about dollar cost averaging. Also, in a recession, like any other time, you are not going to want to put all your eggs in one basket. You are going to diversify your investments because, as we talked about, the economy as a whole might not be doing well, but some sectors might be doing better than others. So diversification, again, essentially, it's not putting all your eggs in one basket. It means spreading out your investments across a whole host of things: stocks, bonds, real estate, as well as sectors like commodities, consumer goods, tech, utilities. So instead of having all your money in one stock, where it could go really bad and you lose all your money, you spread your money across different stocks, across different sectors, so that some might do really well and some might lose, but overall, you are getting an average good return. So it's simply not spreading your money across different types of investments. It's also spreading it across different markets and really taking advantage of the fact that you are lowering your risk while doing this. Now, it's really understandable to feel worried during a recession, but really try not to panic. Don't do anything impulsive with your investments. It might be good, if you haven't already, to shut off any notifications about how the market is doing, because these cycles don't really last that long. We will come back to a bull market. It's always a good idea to have a talk, do some research before making any big changes to your investments. Now, if you do have any questions on this, feel free to drop me a line. You have my email in the show notes, and I would love to hear any questions that you might have. Now, the last thing we want to talk about when it comes to preparing for a recession is actually the most important. Yes, I buried the lead. I want you to take care of you. A recession can be stressful and overwhelming, with concerns about job security, financial stability, taking care of family, taking care of community, taking care of self. And that's why it's so important that you do take care of yourself. It's probably the most important thing that you can do, both in a recession and in good times. The first tip for self-care during a recession is to practice mindfulness. It means really being present in a moment, focusing on your thoughts and your emotions, being really aware of where you are. Whatever your practice is, whether it's meditation, yoga, taking deep breaths, journaling, it's always really good to be mindful so you can better manage any situation of stress and anxiety. My next tip is really to just stay connected to friends and family. During recession, it could really be easy to feel isolated and alone. I think we've all really experienced what that feels like, during the pandemic. But maintaining relationships that provide support and a sense of community is really so important to battle those feelings of feeling isolated and alone. Make an effort to reach out to loved ones, whether it's a phone call, a text message, a Zoom call, a visit. These can not only help when it comes to thinking about, emotional stability, but it also really has a big impact on how we feel about where we are, particularly from a financial perspective as well. We can feel financially rich by being emotionally rich. Another way to take care of yourself is really just to focus on your physical health. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising regularly, getting a sweat on a little bit. It helps your body feel better, but it will also boost your mood and help you manage stress. Again, the emotional side of things can really have an impact on all aspects of your life, including your financial life. And finally, don't really be afraid to seek help if you need it, whether it's talking to a therapist, seeking financial advice. There are tons of resources to help you. I'm leaving another plug here to drop me a line and let me know, because a recession, particularly if it hits you hard, is just a temporary setback. And by taking care of yourself, you will be much better equipped to handle any challenges ahead. So what did we talk about? We talked about having an emergency fund, diversifying your investments, keeping a check on your spending, and nurturing your relationships, whether they be networking with colleagues and business contacts, as well as with those who are your family and chosen family. Having a plan in place will give you that peace of mind, knowing that you have a safety net to fall back on during tough times that is just as strong as it is the good time. Preparing for a recession can help you make better financial decisions. It's always better to be proactive and protect your financial well-being before a recession hits, rather than reacting to it. Thanks again for listening. This has been another episode of the No Boss of Me podcast. I'm Leanne Hanaway, money coach, wealth educator, and chartered professional accountant. If you have feedback on today's episode, don't forget to rate us and review us wherever you get your podcast. You can also DM us on Instagram at nobossofme. We'd love to hear from you. Please join us again next time for more on investing to build wealth, navigating personal finance, and talking to women entrepreneurs who are changing our world with confidence. Thanks for listening.